Wow. Canelo, hey, get the payday. You want payday? I know that. He's getting a fraction of the money that he got with PBC Premier Boxing Champions. A new article comes out. That's what I want to talk about in this video. Make sure you come in and smash the like button. What up, Fight World? It's your boy, Ego. And I'm back with some more boxing. Let me jump right into the content. The New York Times, link in the description. They got an article talking about the Canelo Bivol fight, which takes place tomorrow. Now, in my honest opinion and assessment, I think the promotion has been dreadful and abysmal, and it's not the same buzz, which we'll get to more in this video. But just so you guys can see, the link is in the description, but I pulled, quote, boxing aficionados might find the Canelo Bivol matchup intriguing, but selling the bout to a wider audience still depends on Alvarez's star power. And this is the part that I want you guys to know. Canelo, his $15 million guarantee for the Bivol fight is a fraction of his upfront pay that he got for the Caleb Plant fight and bout, but also hints that Alvarez expects a windfall when he receives his cut of pay-per-view revenue. Now, that is actually very interesting news. So Canelo Alvarez, and don't make it sound like, I'm not trying to make it sound like this is small money. You know, there's a lot of boxers that would love $15 million. But the point I'm making is this: Canelo's getting $15 million for a Bivol fight on an app. He's trapped on an app. And this is what he deemed would be the next best move for his career, which proves to me that Canelo, you know, he's not really interested in doing what's right for the boxing fans. He's really just lining his pockets up, right? Because you got an offer for a multi-fight deal on PBC to actually fight on PBC against the likes of Errol Spence at a catchweight of 164, at David Benavidez or JERMALL Charlo. The first fight, they were talking about JERMALL Charlo, right? And you would have gotten more than that. If Showtime Boxing ponied up and gave him his record high $40 million guarantee, why would you have to question, why would Canelo decide, hey, let me go fight on an app that is not going to promote and doesn't have the same infrastructure, if he truly wanted these other fights, which is what I've kind of been pondering and asking? It's looking real shaky. $15 million to fight Bivol. So old media, let them tell it. They say that Bivol is the biggest and most massive threat, and it's all about Bivol and this and that. But my thing is, why would he not take? The fans of Canelo are saying that Canelo will easily dispatch of JERMALL Charlo, easily dispatch of Errol Spence, he's too small, or David Benavidez. So why not easily take? And then what they are saying is the Bivol fight is actually the fight that everybody should be checking for. The Bivol fight is actually the fight that makes the most sense and the most dangerous. This is how they're selling it. Even Eddie Hearn is on record saying, oh, the Bivol fight is going to be his toughest fight. I don't agree with that. I think the Mayweather fight will be and showed to be much tougher than the Bivol fight tomorrow. But, you know, we'll see how it plays out. But my point is this. If Canelo, why wouldn't you take the bigger events? We know Charlo, Errol, and Benavidez would clearly be bigger events than what we're feeling on Fight Week. So it's looking bad for the Canelo man fans. Why would you take a lesser event for lesser money than what PBC was offering you, and a lesser just overall fight week, when you could fight Charlo? Canelo fans are saying that Canelo easily beats Charlo, and we know he would have got a guarantee. He got $40 million to go back to Showtime, where he fought the likes of Lada and Mayweather and stuff like that, and he got $40 million guaranteed for the Caleb Plant fight. Showtime had a keen interest in bringing him back, and he would have made more money. So it proves those reports that previously came out. There was a bidding war. Canelo he's banking on DAZN, and what has DAZN produced that matches Showtime's biggest grossing fights, like Mayweather versus McGregor? They don't have any body of work that even touches that or even comes close to touching that. Like, don't tell me about Katie Taylor Serrano. That was a good fight, but I'm talking about commercially made the type of money that Mayweather made when he was with Showtime, or Mayweather McGregor. So it's really starting to look suspect for Canelo Alvarez to take $15 million. Yes, $15 million in order to fight Bivol. Old media keeps claiming that this is the toughest fight out there. So why would you take a tougher fight for less money if that was really and truly the case? Listen, people, styles make fights. The other guys from the PBC, those would have been for Canelo's style. I think, like I've been saying, I think those truly would have been the tougher fights that would have really pushed Canelo's style. Whether he can win, if it's a draw or whatever, those would be those American styles, fast-handed guys, athletic guys, guys with piston jabs, guys with crazy heart, guys with an inside fight game. You know, these are things that, like, people want some of the Canelo, who he is choosing, especially on DAZN, they want them to be fighters that they're not. Bivol's style, Bivol has never fought someone with an inside game like Canelo. No one, right? But Canelo has fought bigger, taller guys that can box a little bit, that aren't that aggressive. You know what I mean? He already fought Kovalev, right? And you could argue Kovalev has more power. So to me, it's looking suspect. I think the fans, bigger events, more money, bigger money. Now finding out he's getting $15 million, that made it a whole lot worse. Because if Errol's too small, you could have fought too small Errol, it still would have been a bigger fight week than Bivol, and you would have made a lot more than that guarantee. And then on the back end, the pay-per-view sales would be crazy because you would get to see a black fighter like Errol Spence Jr. undefeated at a maximum weight deficit, and he's doing 40,000 in an audience in Texas by itself. So imagine putting that fight in Texas, Canelo's fans and Errol Spence, you could do 80 to 100,000 possibly, right? And you would make a bigger event. Boxing would be thriving because everybody would, ESPN, you know, all the news and Instagram pages would be talking about it. YouTube channels would be buzzing and blowing up. But instead, in the middle of Russia invading Ukraine, you're fighting a Russian fighter in a fight that really has no buzz right now. And come to find out, according to this New York Post article, or excuse me, New York Times, link in the description, his guarantee is $15 million. So he's banking on making a bunch of money on the back end. But I don't think they promoted this fight. So it really, I told you, I think Canelo going to Showtime and PBC would have been the best decision because it made the most sense and it would have been the biggest events for him. Whether Charlo, if you think he has a chance or not, it doesn't matter. He would have made more money and a bigger splash with a bigger event than Canelo versus Bivol, period. And again, people are like, oh, Bivol's so much tougher. He's such a great fighter. Canelo excels with that particular fight style. And at the Canelo level, he doesn't need a bunch of unnecessary, useless belts and things like that. Big events would be nice. Him making money for his family would make nice. And we know Showtime was willing. They just came out and said several times over, they were willing to pay him $45 million for a Charlo fight. And then who knows with that fight, based on how long people have wanted to see it since the 154 days, who knows how many pay-per-views it would have sold. So on the back end. So to me, that would have clearly been better. But Benavidez, Errol Spence, all these fights would have outsold whatever Bivol intends to sell with Canelo. So me, I think that looks bad for Canelo, that he could have made big, massive fights that would appetize and appease the fans and make more money for himself, which would have been also more difficult fights for his style, but he elects to do something else. It's kind of hard to, you know, justify. $15 million guarantee, wow. And you made 40 for Caleb Plant. How could you justify? Let me know in the comment section how you could justify Canelo not taking the Showtime PBC deal for bigger events, bigger money, bigger fight weeks, better promotion. We know Showtime did a hell of a job with Tank's upcoming fights and Charlo's fights and also Canelo versus Plant. How can you justify this stuff for Canelo to fight on an app that a lot of people aren't familiar with, don't know? Drop that in the comment section.